Hello and welcome. This will be a comprehensive guide on modern data architecture. Here, we will explore a powerful data processing framework that's revolutionizing how organizations handle their data transformation journey. We will focus on medallion architecture pattern implemented using Databricks and how it integrates with various data tools to create a robust, scalable data platform. Now let's understand the medallion architecture. The medallion architecture is also known as multi-hop architecture. It is a data design process that structures data processing into three distinct layers, each represented by a different medallion: bronze, silver, and gold. So let's start with our data source. So firstly, we are going to have a data source, and here we will be using the NYC Taxi data source, or specifically the green taxi data source from NYC Taxi. And to get this data source, we are going to be creating an API so that we can automatically pull the data source from the data website. Now, after getting our data source, we are going to be performing the ingestion of this data into Azure Data Factory. And this will be our ingestion layer. And here we will have our Azure Data Factory. So using Azure Data Factory, we are going to be copying our data from the API source and pasting it into an Azure Blob Storage. And then using this raw data from the Azure Delta Lake storage, this layer will be called our bronze layer, and this will all happen inside our Databricks. So let's create a big box for Databricks environment. This will be our Databricks environment. So inside the Databricks environment, the first layer we are going to create is the bronze layer. Let's give this the bronze layer. So inside this bronze layer, we are going to get raw data from our data source, which is the Azure Data Lake storage. So let's give the box for that. This will be raw data store, and it is Delta Lake Gen 2. Now, the next thing is our silver layer inside the data break. So let's create a box for that as well. Let's give the name as silver layer. So inside the silver layer, we are going to be performing transformation from the data in the data lake Gen 2 and then pasting it to data lake as well. So this will be our transform data, and we are going to be using Databricks for transforming our data. This will be pasted into Delta Lake 2. Now our next layer will be gold layer. Let's give the name. So this will be the serving layer, and again the data will be stored in a new container inside the same storage account or the data lake, and we can name these containers bronze, silver, and gold. So serving layer. Now from this container or the gold container or the gold data, we will be creating some visualizations, and we will use Power BI for these visualizations. So let's create a box for that as well. We can call this the consumption layer, and we will be using Power BI. So let's understand. So we will be getting our data from a data source, and the data is NYC Taxi dataset, and we will be using an API to get the data source from the NYC Taxi website to our Azure Data Factory. And using the Azure Data Factory, we are going to be pasting the data inside the raw data lake Gen 2 or the bronze layer. This will be a different bronze layer container. Now, after getting the data into our bronze layer or the bronze container, we are going to be using Databricks to transform our data and store it inside a silver container or the container which is named silver. So, bronze layer acts as a landing zone for raw data, preserves the data source in its original form, and enables the full data lineage and reprocessing capabilities, and it serves as the single source of truth. Now, the silver layer, it contains the cleaned, filtered, and validated data, implemented implements quality control and data standardization. It removes duplicates and handles missing values and creates a more structured and reliable data set. Now, after the silver layer, we are going to be transforming our data to the gold layer. So, the gold layer houses business level aggregates. It contains enriched data for which is ready for analysis and which is optimized for specific use cases and reporting. This enables quick access to business insights. So let's walk through our architecture diagram to understand how data flows through the system. Our data and our journey begins with data sources represented by the API, and then it symbolizes the real world data origins. This could be transactional systems, IoT devices, external APIs, batch uploads, streaming data. Then the data factory serves as our industrial strength ingestion engine, systematically collecting and routing data through APIs and various connectivity options. Now, our data is inside Databricks. This will be the transformation phase. Inside Databricks environment, we have three different layers. The first is bronze layer or the raw data store, and we will use Apache Parquet format for efficient storage and implement Data Lake Gen 2 for asset compliance. We will also maintain data quality through versioning and enable time travel capabilities. Next is the silver layer for our transform data. Here we apply business rules and data quality frameworks. We also standardize data formats and structures and implements data validation checks. This creates a clean, reliable dataset. The next is gold layer. We also call it serving layer. Here we optimize data for specific business needs and create aggregated views and metrics. This enables fast query performance and support various analytical use cases. The final layer is the consumption layer. So after the gold layer, we are going to be transferring our data to consumption layer. So in the consumption layer, we will use Power BI for architecture. This creates interactive dashboards and reports, which are self-service analytics and provides real-time insights and support data-driven decision making. So the Medallion architecture provides several key advantages. The first one is data quality. So it provides progressive refinement of data quality and has clear separation of concerns. It also handles robust errors and it provides comprehensive data validation. It is a very scalable model and, and provides modular design for easy expansion and parallel processing capabilities. It also has efficient resource utilization and flexible deployment options. So our performance in the Medallion architecture is also optimized to query and it also reduces data processing time with efficient storage utilization for better resource management. To conclude, the Medallion architecture represents a modern approach to data processing that combines reliability, scalability, and efficiency. By implementing this architecture with Databricks, organizations can create a robust data platform that serves both current and future needs while maintaining high data quality and governance standards. Remember, the key to success with this architecture lies in understanding your specific use case and adapting the framework to meet your organization's unique requirements while maintaining the core principle of progressive data refinement and quality. That's all for the introduction. Now we will see you in the practical implementation. Thank you. Hello and welcome. In this video, we will perform the practical implementation of our data pipeline using the NYC Taxi dataset. We will perform it in three terms and use the Medallion architecture for bronze, silver, and gold. So without wasting our time, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is create a new resource group. So let's search for resource group and let's create one. Now we can give any name. Let's give NYC Taxi Resource Group and it's available. You can change the region to somewhere near you. I'm using Central India and we do not need to change anything else. Just click on review and create and let's create. So inside our resource group, we will be creating few things. The first is an Azure Data Lake Storage. So we are currently in our resource group that we just created NYC Taxi RG. So let's create a few infrastructure. Let's click on create. This will take us to the marketplace and let's search for storage account. So the storage account will be the one where we create our Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So let's select it and click on create. And our NYC Taxi resource group is already selected. Let's give a name to our storage account. So data lake storage for NYC Taxi. It's available. Now performance as standard. Let's select redundancy as low redundant storage because our dataset is not very highly volatile or anything. So let's go to now advanced and here we will be selecting hierarchical namespace. So this will convert our basic blob storage account to our data lake storage gen 2 and rest we do not need to change anything else. Go to review and create and after a few validation checks our storage account is ready to create. So click on create. This will initialize our deployment for the storage account. Let's just wait for it to be created. Our storage account creation is complete. Let's wait for the deployment to be completed, and it is done. So let's go to resource. So inside our storage account, we will be creating a few containers, which will be for each for the bronze stage, silver stage, and the gold stage. So let's create the containers: bronze, silver, and gold. So the first thing we will do is go to bronze container and create a few folders for our data set. Before that, let me show you the data set. So we'll go to Google and search for NYC Taxi dataset, and here you will reach the website of nyc.gov, and this is our dataset. Let me zoom in a little bit. As you can see, there are multiple years. We will be using the year 2023, and inside it you will see yellow taxi trip records and green taxi trip records. We will be using the green track taxi trip, and it is in Parquet format, and there are a few other files we will be using. So scroll down, and here you will see a taxi zone lookup, and this file we will be using. There will also be a trip type CSV file we will be using, so I will just create it and show it to you while the time of upload. So let's go. So here you can see we have our data set in for 2023, but the data set is very scattered in each of the months, January, February up till December, and we need to download the green taxi data set. What we can do is individually download uh, each one for January up till December, but that's a lot time consuming. So what we will do is use a link service and base URL and APIs to download the dataset automatically and store it in our storage account or the bronze container. So what we can do for that is let's right click on the green taxi and let's copy the link address. So now go to, I will show you, and here you can see we have our API to get the data set. If we just hit run, it will automatically start downloading. Let me show you. And here you can see it already downloaded the Parquet file for January, but that's a lot time consuming. So what we will doing is using this API to get the data automatically. Here, this part of the API is called the base URL, and the rest of the part is the endpoint. So we will be using this. So let's go back and let's create a few directories. The first one is trip type. So let's click on save and let's create another directory, trip zone, and let's save it. So let's also download the trip zone data from the NYC Taxi site. So click on this taxi zone lookup table, and this will download it in a few seconds, and it's done. So let's upload this as well. So go to trip zone and you will see this button to upload. Let's upload. Let's browse for files, and here you can see that this is the trip zone lookup file that we just downloaded. Now let's open this and click on upload. So our zone lookup file is already uploaded. Now let's go back to the trip type file, trip type folder, and click on upload. Let's do the same again. Let's open, and here you can see the trip type is uploaded. Let me show you what it is. It's just trip type and description, pretty simple, nothing else. Now the next thing we want to do is create our data factory. So let's open Microsoft Azure portal in a new tab, and Let's select our resource group so that we can create data factory inside our resource group. Click on create. This will take us to marketplace. Let's search for data factory, and here you can see this is our data factory from Microsoft Azure service. Let's click on create. Now our resource group is already selected. Let's give a name, NYC Taxi, and so it's Medallion architecture. So just give MA, or you can give any name you want. Now let's select Central India. Version V2 is fine. Get configuration, no need to change anything. Networking, no need to change anything. Advanced, no need to change anything. Go to just review and create. And now click on create. This will submit our deployment and will take a few seconds to create our Azure Data Factory. So let's just wait for it. And our Data Factory is up and running. Now let's go to the resource. This will take us to NYC Data Taxi Data Factory that we just created. Now let's launch our Azure Data Factory Studio. This will be the place where we will be performing everything or every transformation. So here is our Data Factory Studio. The first thing we need to do is create a linked service. So linked service acts as a connection between multiple Azure resources and other resources as well, like an on-prem or some other SQL or anything that needs to capture data from. So let's go to Manage tab, and here you will see the linked service. Now click on New. So the first link service we are going to create is to get data from our NYC Taxi government website and inside our data factory. So this will be a HTTP type of connection. So let's type HTTP. Let's select HTTP and click on continue. Now let's rename it taxi data. Okay, no, taxi data and source. You can give any name. I'm just giving something to remember. Let me also give GOV so that I can remember it is from the government website. Now we have to give a base URL, as you can see. So here you can see our URL. So this part up till the first slash is the base URL. So let's copy it and go back here and let's paste this URL. And under authentication type, we will choose anonymous because it's open dataset, anyone can download. So anonymous. Let's test the connection. Our connection was successful. Now click on create. So this has created our first link service. Now we need to create one more link service for our destinations. So where we can copy, where we are finally copying our data to. So let's click on new and it will be data lake gen 2. So make sure to select gen 2 and let's click on continue. Let's also give it a name and so data lake sync. This should work. And now let's select our subscription, also the storage account name, data lake storage NYC taxi, and test all is fine. Let's test the connection, and connection was successful. Now click on create. So this has created our link service to store the data into the data lake. So the next thing we want to do is create a pipeline to copy data from the NYC Taxi website or NYC government website to the data lake storage or using this data lake sync. So what we can do is go to this author tab on the left hand pane, and here you can see the first option inside factory resources is pipelines. So we will be creating a new pipeline. So go to pipeline actions and click on plus new pipeline. Now here you can see a new pipeline activity has popped up. Let's rename it and let's give web to data lake, and let's close the properties tab so we have much more space. Now, here on the left hand side, you have various activities like move and transform, synapse, and machine learning and Power Query, and a lot others. So, the first activity we want to perform is to copy data from NYC Taxi here to our Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So what we are going to do is go to move and transform and select this copy data activity. So let's drag it to the pipeline creation area and let's change the name. Let's give web to data lake. Now our name is done. The next thing we want to do is create a source. So our source was NYC government website. So currently there are no source. So let's create a new one. And the type is HTTP because API, using API we are getting our data. So HTTP. And if you're using GitHub, it will also be HTTP, just a simple extra knowledge. So click on continue and our data type is Sparky. Let's select that. Now click on continue. Let's give data name or surname. So NYCGOV to, let's give data lake. Now let's select our link service. So we will be selecting the taxi data source government link service. Now it is asking for relative URL. So let's go back and let me show you again. Copy link address, new tab. Let me paste it. And here you can see we copied up till this point. So this point was up till the base URL. Now after this is our endpoint. So we need to provide the endpoint. Now let's go back and it's also called relative URL. Do we want to import schema? No. Now click on OK. Request method is get, pretty basic. Now go to sync where we want to store our data to NYC data lake. Let's select that. We can't directly select this sync because let me first explain. So let's click on create new. We are creating a new sync. So data lake storage gen 2, click on continue and let's select Parquet, click on continue. Let's give the name web to data lake. Now let's select our link service. This was the one we selected was actually a link service, not exactly a sync. And that's why we can't select that. It is now this we are creating is a sync. Now let's browse our path. So we want to store it inside bronze, but in none of these folders. So let's click OK. And we can also give the directory name and the file name, but let me show you. But because of the slash, here you can see trip data slash and green trip data and the Parquet file. So this trip data slash will automatically create a repository inside our bronze container. So we do not need to give a name for our directory or file name. Import schema, none. Now click on OK. So our copy data activity for this one is done. So what we are going to do is click on this empty area or the empty pipeline area and select debug. So this will run our pipeline for the first time. And here you can see it's a new created pipeline activity currently in progress. And the activity type copy data, runtime, etc. currently in queued. So let's refresh and our copy data activity is succeeded. Let's give you the details. So HTTP to Azure Data Lake Storage in Central India region, and the data read was about 1.4 MB and other information. Now let's close it and go back to see our bronze container and let's refresh. Here you will see a new folder created by the name of trip data. and inside is our parquet file. But this file is currently still for January data, but we want to copy all the data for January till December. So I will tell you how to do that in the next part of the video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. In the previous part of the video, we performed a copy activity to copy data from NYC Taxi or NYC government website and paste it to our bronze container. Here you can see we got our packet file. Now the next step we want to do is copy the data for all of the months including from January to till December. So what we are going to do is follow a recursive approach so that our data can be copied automatically. What you can also do is create a copy activity 12 times, which is really time consuming and inefficient. So let's get started with our recursive approach. So click on this copy data activity and let's go to source. Let's open our source and here you can see where we provided our relative URL. So we are going to do is create a new parameter and let's give a new parameter name e underscore month, and we are not going to provide any default value. Let's go back to connection and inside our relative URL here you can see it has given 01. Let's add it to dynamic content. For that, let's just copy the entirety of this relative URL and then let's open a to dynamic content. And here let me show you. Can I zoom it? Yes. So here this 01 part of the relative URL defines the month, which is January in this case. So what we are going to do is, and let me zoom out. What we are going to do is clear this one and we will use the p month parameter that we just created. So if you directly click on this p month, it will give some weird expression which is not required and will cause issues further on. So let me first delete entirety of it. So and clear this one and type at the rate. So this will be a variable we are going to use. And then inside these curly braces, we are going to select the p month and this will give 2023-0 at the rate dataset dot p month. So this will create a variable and we will use this variable to run a for each loop for 1 to 12. Then we will be able to download our data. So let's click OK. And now this copy activity is parameterized. And how we can learn that? Let's go back to our pipeline and here you can see inside it is asking for a value inside the month parameter. So we are not going to directly provide a value here, but what we are going to do is get a for each activity. So let's drag a for each activity and let's give the name 1 to 12. Now let's go to settings and what we want sequential. Yes. So in the meantime, you can also delete this green trip data 01. So because it's going to be downloaded again, so you can just delete it. Now let's go to items. So inside parameter items, we are going to go to add dynamic content and we want to provide parameter from 1 to 12. So we can use a function inside Python called range. You can find the function directly from here and it might be inside math functions. Let me search and yes, here it is. You can use range. So we have to provide an argument inside range. Our argument will be from 1 to 12 because we are going to passing our value inside parameter from starting from 1 up till 12. Now let's click OK. And the next thing we want to do is we have our for each activity created and we want to get data from our NYC government website in a recursive manner inside the for each activity. So what we can do is get this copy data activity inside our for each activity. So how you can do this? Click on the copy data and press Control X. This will cut our activities. Now select for each. You can either click on this plus activity or go to activities here and click on this pencil button. And as you can see, web to data lake, and this is the name for our for each. This was the pipeline name. So let's paste our copy data activity here. And now we will be providing a month value. So what value we are going to provide? So let's just click on value and add dynamic content. And you can see 1 to 12. It will just give at the rate item here because we are running our loop 1 to 12, and the item parameterized item we have created is inside for each loop. So this is what we are going to give inside the copy data and inside the value of our parameter. Now what we can do is just run this copy data activity inside our for each loop so that we can get our data copied from nyc.government website to our bronze container. Let me go back here. You can also delete this trip data folder. That's all right. Let's delete this as well. So trip type, we have our data, trip zone, we have our data. So let's go back and let's try to run this activity. So go back to our pipeline, and here you can see for each inside web to data lake. Now click on the empty space and let's run debug. This will run our pipeline. Let me scroll it up. This will take a few seconds to run our pipeline. Here you can see it's queued. The first thing for each, then first part of the copy data. Let's Here you can see the first one is already succeeded in 13 seconds. So let's keep on refreshing so that we can see our data. The second one is already succeeded. Let's wait for it so that all of our data is successfully copied to our data lake storage. The third one is under progress. Third one succeeded. Fourth one is under progress. Fourth one has also succeeded. Fifth one has also succeeded. And the next one is under progress. It's taking around 12 to 13 seconds each for the copy data activity to perform inside for each loop. Let's keep on refreshing. One more succeeded, and this will be the case for all of them. So let's just wait for it to get the completely successful activity status. And so here you can see a few of them failed. Let me get the details of why they failed. So let's select here. Aha. So here you can see it's 011. The keen eye among you have already noticed it because after 9, we do not need to put 0 in front of our relative URL so that to get our data. So in the next part, we are going to change this and so that there is no issue while downloading our data. So let's see you in the next part. Hello and welcome back. And in this part of the video, we are going to solve the issue that we encountered previously, which was the failure of the step after 9. And let me show you the trip data as well. And so trip data, here you can see we are getting till 9, but after 9 it fails because we were giving the value as 0, 1, 0 and 0, 1, 1. Let me show you. Okay, here you will see it. And here you can see the trip data value we were giving as 0, 1, 0, which was not required. So let's resolve that issue as well. So what we are going to do is first step is to go inside the activities for each. Let's do that. And here is our copy data activity. So what we are going to do is use an if else condition. So the if else condition will say that if the n- loop runs from 0 to 9, it will copy the data accordingly, the copy data activity we have created. But if it is greater than 9, and we will create another copy activity. So let's get started on that. Inside the, so let me go back and show you. So this is our pipeline activity, and we are going inside the for each loop. So let's go to activities, click on this pencil, and here we have our for each activity. So let's get an if condition inside here. So let's do that. And what we are going to do is inside activities. So what we're going to do is create an expression for the if condition. Let's go to add dynamic content. So our expression will be to get the value which is greater than the 9. So let's use at the rate greater, and the value according is um, item, and it's file, let's give 9. So if the loop runs from 0 to 9, it will, sorry, 1 to 9, it is giving 1 to 9, then it will automatically run the copy activity. So, and we are using greater function. So if this condition fails, we are going to perform the normal copy activity. If this condition falls true, we are going to change the copy activity. So let's click OK. And now if this condition fails greater than 9, so we can just copy this. Let's use Control C and copy it inside the false. So go to if condition, click on false. Let's paste it here and is it? Yep. So let's also rename it web to data lake less 9, and let's get our source. The source is already fine. It was already working without any issue, and sync is also fine. So what we are going to do is leave this as is, and now go back to our if condition and change the true condition. So let's go back, and here you can see uh, currently where are we? Okay, so let's go inside for each, and here you can see we have our if condition, and there is a, let me zoom out so that you can see properly, and there is a copy activity. So this copy activity we do not need, so let's cut it so that we can paste it inside the true. So let's select our if activity and let's go inside true. So if this condition greater than 9 is true, what we are going to do is here I have pasted the copy activity that I just cut. Now let's go inside source. So we are going to go inside if condition and true activities, we are going to create a new data set because this time we are not going to put a zero. It's just the same step, but we are going to not put zero in there. So let's go to HTTP. Just the same steps, type parakeet. Let's select our link service. Let's give it a name, greater 9, greater 9, and relative URL. Let's copy the relative URL from here. Uh, You might say that we are putting the relative URL, but we are going to change it. So let's open the greater 9 and inside here first create a parameter. Let's create new. Let's give p underscore month and type greater. Now go to connections. Let's copy this and add dynamic content. Let's paste it here. Now remove 01, type at the rate, and here you can just select this parameter. So grip data. Okay, so instead of at the rate, I type A, and yes, now at the rate trip data, green trip data 2023 data set. So here we have not given the zero. That's why, because it's greater than 9, so the true activity. Don't worry if you do not understand, I will explain it once again after creating it entirely. Now, okay, and greater activity is done. Let's go back to our copy data and let's see, let's sync will remain the same. Now if it's in true condition, the sync will remain the same and web to data lake. Now let me go back to directly to web to data lake so that I can show you exactly what it is. The first thing is for each 1 to 12 we are going to run our for each loop 1 to 12, then inside there is an if condition. So if condition is here, if the item is greater than 9, if 1 to 9, the for each loop gets greater than 9, the true activity will do what? True activity will have the one where we do not put the 0 inside the parameter or the source, and the false activity will remain the simple one, 0, 0 at the rate dataset dot something, the parameter name that it was, and in the true activity, we are not giving the 0. So let's show you both as well. And here you can see the copy data source. If I open it, you can see trip at the rate dataset. It's all right. Now let's also, okay, so this is the same this here, and we are currently inside true activity. So let's go back and let me also show you the false activity. False activity was also the same. Now less than 9, the source was the one without the greater than, and currently I think I have not given this inside true activity the item value. So let's go back and this is here, not here. It's all right. Let's go back to the if condition and inside true, and here yes I have not given this, so make sure to give this. Let's type at the rate item, and now okay. Now this time this should work properly. So let's go to the main pipeline and also delete all of this data. So let's just delete entirety of trip data folder. Let's delete and successfully deleted. And now let's try to run our pipeline. This should give us no issue and copy all the data files from 1 to 12 without any issue. So let's wait for it. As you can see, the greater than 9 one also passed successfully. And let's just wait for the entire pipeline to run successfully. Then we will move on to the next step. And this should be the final one. And all of our pipeline ran successfully. Here you can see, let's go to our container and refresh. Let's strip data. And we have our files from 1, meaning January, to 12, meaning December. So now our all the copy activity is done. So we will see you in the next video for the silver one. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are going to be performing some operations on our data that we copied from the NYC Taxi dataset to our bronze container here from 1 to 12. Before starting, let me give you a recap of what we did. So we created a new pipeline, and inside that pipeline, we created the first activity we created was a for each activity that run our loop from 1 to 12. Then inside that, we created an if condition that if it is greater than 9, we are going to perform a simple set of operation to remove the 0 from the relative URL. And if it is not greater than 9, we are going to put the 0 inside our relative URL and use parameters to copy data to a bronze container. So the next step we are going to do is create a Databricks. And before creating that Databricks, we need to perform some operations and also get some we need to get some keys and uh, authentications from Azure so that we can perform our Databricks operation perfectly without having any issue. So the thing is to access the blob storage or the Azure Data Lake Gen 2, Databricks needs some keys and values to be created beforehand so that there is no issue further on. So this is what we will all be doing inside our this video. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is create an application. So that application is also called a service principal. So this service principal will grant application read and write data to our Databricks. So and the service principal is known as data storage contributor. So how can we do that? Let's open Microsoft Azure in a new tab and let's search for Entra ID. So here you can see Microsoft Entra ID. Let's go to it and let's click on add, and we are going to create an app registration. So we will just be giving a simple name of the app. Let's give NYC Taxi app, and rest all we do not need to touch. Everything else is fine. Now just click on register. So our application has been created. What we need to do is get some info from this application. So how we can do that? Let's go back to home and let's go again to Entra ID, and on the left hand side let's go to manage, and here you will see app registrations. Now go to all applications and let's search for our app NYC. Here is our NYC Taxi application, and inside this we will be needing a few things like application ID and directory tenant ID. So you can just copy these to a notepad or some clipboard wherever you feel fine. Next thing we need is to get some data and create a new access control in our storage account so that Databricks can access it. So let's go to our storage account and let's go here to resource. This is our storage account. So inside our storage account of the left hand pane, we need to go to access control and click on this add and add a role assignment. Let's give the role. So the role I told you before, the storage container contributor. So let's type storage and let me show you. Not on storage, so blob. You can see And let me, here you can see a storage blob data contributor. So select this role, click on next, and then we need to select the members. And in this members, we are going to be selecting our application that we just created. So aim was NYC Taxi application, not the subscription, just this is for data factory, but we have to select our subscription. Now select, and no need to touch anything else, just click on review and create and review and assign. And the next thing we want to do is create our Azure Databricks, and let's open Azure portal in a new tab, and let's go to our resource group. Here we will see our resource group. Now click on create, take into marketplace. Now let's search for Databricks, and here now select Microsoft Azure Databricks, click on create. Let's give our Databricks a name, NYC Taxi DB. We can also create a managed resource group, but it is fine without that as well. So just let's go to networking. No need to touch this. Nothing to touch here. Nothing to touch here as well. Just go to review and create. And let's create our Databricks workspace. And our deployment is currently under progress. It will take a few seconds to create. Let's just wait for it. In the meantime, what we can do is create a secret ID for our storage lake account. So let's go to our data lake storage, and scroll down to see access keys, and let's create, okay, not this one. Now the secret we need to create is not in our storage account. Misjudged that. So it's actually in our app registration. So let's go create Azure portal in a new tab. Let's go to enter ID, and go to app registrations. Now all applications. Let's type our NYC Taxi app. Now inside here, go to manage, click on certificates and secrets. Now create a new client secret. We do not need to give a description, just go to add, and we need to copy the secret ID. Let's copy it, and let's paste it in a notepad. This was secret, and let's paste this as well. And the other things that's currently under deployment. And let's also paste the client ID, and also get the tenant ID or the directory ID. And after saving these, let's go to our data bricks. You can close these as well, and we don't need to do again. Neither here. Our deployment is complete. We do not need this as well. We do need this. We do not need this. Now let's go to data bricks, and you can see launch workspace. So what we are going to do inside Databricks, the first thing is to create a compute, which will be the compute engine for running our applications or running our transformations. And how to do that? Let's, on the left hand pane, you can see compute. Now create compute. You can give this a name. Let's give NYC Taxi, and Let's select single node because our data isn't very big data or something. So we can just select single node. Now, also single user, your user is fine. Now select Databricks runtime. Let's select some older version so that we do not get charged much. Let's select 14.3 LTS. Now node type, this is too big memory, so let's uh, uh, okay, so you can select inside general purpose DS3V2. Now select this. Terminate after 120 minutes of activities. Fine. Rest all is fine. Just click on create compute. This will create our compute and will take around 4 to 5 minutes because of gathering the compute resources and other things. So in the meantime, what we can do is create a new workspace for our transformation purposes. And you are fine with the default workspace as well, but I like to create a new workspace for each data. So let's click on create and let's create. I go to workspaces and click on create and create a new folder. This will be a workspace. Let's just give NYC Taxi workspace. Click on create. And inside this, we will be creating a notebook. And let it load. Let's also rename the notebook. Let's give NYC Taxi and currently Python. Our compute is under creation. You will be able to see. And it's still under creation. Let's just wait for it. So now our compute has been created, you can see, and we can connect our compute to our Databricks notebook. Just select the compute that is created and this dot will turn green, meaning that our compute has finally been connected to this notebook. So let's also rename the notebook to silver. The next thing we want to do is connect our Azure Data Lake storage to Databricks. So how we can do that? Just go to new tab and type connect data lake to Databricks and you will see documentation from Databricks and Microsoft Learn. So let's select just Microsoft Learn and scroll down. You will see the code in Python here. Service confidential. Let's just copy this and paste it in our here. Do not run this. Currently, we need to fill out the values like secret scope and others. So also the directory ID wherever there is greater than less than, so we need to provide the IDs for these as well. So let's get started with those IDs. Now here you can see the storage account name we have to put, the application ID we have to put, and the directory ID we have to put. And so you can just delete this line, we are not going to be creating a service credential. Now let's get the IDs. So here you can see code text and these will create a new cells. So let's create a new cell and copy our credentials from Notepad and paste them here. So the first credential is we need to put the name of our storage account. So let's go to Microsoft Azure portal and here we will be seeing our storage account. That's name is Data Lake Storage. Let's copy this name and paste it inside these. And we have to paste this everywhere, so let's paste this wherever it is giving storage account name. Let's just paste it and here as well. Now let's add the application ID. So the application ID is actually this secret. Let's copy this, paste it inside these double quotes. And here we have the directory ID. Let's copy this as well and paste it in the directory ID. There is an extra space, so let's delete that. And here we have the secret credential. So I accidentally put secret credential here. So let's cut this and paste our secret credential here and client ID inside here. So make sure now it looks fine. Let's run this. To run this, press Shift Enter on this selected code block. Okay, so there is invalid decimal. Let me check. So we need to put this inside double quotes. That was our issue. And let's try to run. And as you can see, it succeeded, meaning that we have successfully connected our Databricks to our storage account. Now, in the next video, we will perform the transformations on it, on the data, and then add those data to our silver container. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. In this part of the video, we are going to be performing some operations and transformations on our data set. So without wasting time, let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is check if we can access our bronze container from Databricks. So the command for that is this. So dbutils for Databricks utils, fs file system, and ls for listing, and abfss is basically the keyword to access Databricks. And then let's give our container name and the name of our storage account and .dfs.co.windows.net, basic storage account name. Let's try to run this. And we have received an error. Okay, so HTTP error. Uh, yeah. So the issue with that is we copied the secret name instead of the secret value inside here. So what we can do is go back to our Microsoft Entra ID and let's go to app registrations. Now go to all applications. Let's search NYC Taxi and inside here go to certificates and secrets. And this value is only available if you copy it the first time and will not be available afterwards. So let's delete the previous value and create a new client secret. Do not add description. Let's just copy the value and go back to Databricks. And it is present in the so which one exactly we have to change? Secret starts from 8 9. So here it is 8 9. Let's replace this value and run it again. And now let's run this. And here you can see we can access our bronze container and you can see trip data, trip type and trip zone all available in our bronze container as they are in the bronze container. So let's move on to the next cell to perform some transformation. The next thing we are going to do is import some required libraries to perform some transformations. So the libraries we are importing is completely PySpark SQL functions and PySpark SQL types. Let's run this as well. So these imports just got imported. The next thing we are going to do is read our CSV format data, and the command for that is just a simple df creation variable and spark.read.format, and the format type is CSV. So we are going to convert our party data into CSV to perform the operations. and this will do so. And we are giving loading the data from bronze and container and our data lake storage. Let's run this. And our command ran successfully, creating a new data frame so that we can perform our function. Now let's display the first few lines of our, not this, let's display the first few lines of our DF that we just created. So write the name of the DF, that was DF trip type, and then dot display, and let's display, let's say 5 lines. Let's run this, and here you can see it displayed the trip type, and there were not actually files or the 5 lines inside there, so it only displayed all those that it had. Now let's move on to the next cell. The next thing we are going to do is create a DF for our trip zone. So what we can do is just copy all of this and let's paste it down below. And here you can see, and inside here, let's just change trip type to trip zone. And also let's change the DF name, trip zone. And in the same command, what we can do is run display DF as well. So let's give DF trip zone and display, and let's display the first 5 lines. And let's run this command as well. This will create a new DF for trip zone and display the first few lines. And here are the first few lines. Now let's move on to the next. Next, we are going to create DF for our trip data, and the command to do so is this. And the data format type is parquet, and our data is present in a trip data container inside. Let me show you. Inside our storage account, inside the bronze container. Just wait, and this is our storage account. No need containers, and inside the bronze and trip data, we have a trip data, and you could have this data in an actual service environment in multiple folders. So what we will do is give the option for recursive file lookup. So what this will do is search inside folders if you have data present in some other folders inside the trip data, your base folder. So what we can do is run this. Also, what we can do is create our own schema for this these files which are green trip data. Let me first show you the app schema here, and this can't preview, so no worries. And let me give you the actual schema that we have. Oh, let me show you the schema, and this is the schema we have. So that first one is vendor ID and pickup date time and everything else. So what we can do is just copy this. So why we are doing this? Because infer schema function to while creating the spark or the DF actually infers the type of schema and automatically try to guess the type of the schema and might have some problems, might get some problems while trying to guess the schema. So what we are doing is creating our own schema type. So how we can do that is let's just add a cell above, and here let's paste this. So what this will do is create our own type of schema for each of the columns: vendor ID, big int, the update time and timestamp, and total amount double, etc. And inside this creation or the DF create for our trip data files, what we can do is give the name as my schema. Let's type my caps locks on my schema, and what this will do is use this schema instead of trying to guess the schema. So let's run this cell, and it is done. Now let's also give the display command. So df rep dot display, let's not give 5. Let's run this as well. So here you can see our rep data is present, and instead of creating or trying to guess the schema using Spark, we actually created our own schema, which is better because Spark can make some issues if trying to guess the schema. So let's move on to the next step. Next, let's just rename a column inside. Let me just give you df rep type, and let's give display. What we can doing here is just renaming one of the columns. So the command for that is so df trip type, or the df that we just use, and with column rename from description to something. So let's just try to run this, and here you can see it has changed our column name. Now let's move on to the next. Now the next thing we want to try is to save our data from, let's say, the trip type container, trip type directory to our silver folder or silver container. And the command for that is, so we are going to use the df that we created and write and change the format to par key. And there are this mode. So what we are going to do is append, because it will add it to the end, and the path we are giving inside is silver and our data lake storage name, and inside a new folder called trip type. Currently the data lake storage does not have silver container, does not have any containers or directories inside, so this will just create those as well. Now let's try to run that, and here you can see it ran successfully. Let's just refresh. Here you can see a trip type container, and the actual file in with some success files and some other files is present. So this file should have the actual value, not this one. Let me show you which one committed. Not this as well. Success file, no. One of the files should have this value. Some started. Last one. Check. So actually, this was our file, and why we are not getting any output here, because uh, it cannot display a Parquet file format. So that's why I was also confused. Don't worry, was the file. If you download it and open it in a Parquet format, oh, you can view the data. So the next thing, let's try to display some data according to the zones. So this is the command. So we are going to use the DF we created for trip zone and with column, using zone 1 and split with column zone 2 and split. Let me run so that you can actually see the output. Here you can see according to zone 1 and zone 2 the data we have. Now let's move on to the next cell. Now in the next cell, let's also append this strip zone data to our silver container, and the command for that is this. So we are going to use the same thing, parquet format, mode append, then giving the path, which is silver at the rate our lake storage name, and then a trip zone folder. Let's run this. So let's go to silver, and here you will see the trip zone is also present. And you can see these files that start with underscore. Don't worry, these will not be read anywhere because the file with underscore are generally ignored. So let's move back to Databricks and continue with our transformation. Now we will be performing some operations on the df scripts. Sorry, caps lock on df script. Let's display this first. And here you can see. So we are going to be performing some operations on this. So this is a pretty big file. So let's try to shorten this up a bit. So we are going to be changing df trip with name change to trip date to pickup time, date time, and others. Let's run this. And now let's display our df trip. This, sorry, display, and let's run this. Here it has changed to L pickup time and L drop off time from, let me show you. So you can see. Now let's display just a few columns of TF trips. So we are going to be using select and just displaying the vendor ID, PU location, drop location, fare amount, and total amount. And let's run this. And that is just a small select command for data transformation. Now let's move on to the next cell. Now what we are going to do is uh, paste all of our data from the bronze container for Parquet file into the silver container using Databricks. So we will be using this, and let's change this to 20 trips underscore data. Or you can just keep the folder, and this will append the files that we did previously. Let's run this as well.